Hey everybody, this is an episode that I was originally going to put solely on the B2B Revenue Leadership podcast, but I want to put it on this feed, the Brutal Truth feed, because it is so powerful, and I think it's something that reps as individual contributors overlook. It's about leadership, and people immediately react to this in a less effective way. They think, hey, I don't have any direct reports, Brian. I'm not a leader. Well, we are leaders. We're leaders in our deals. We're leaders within our company to get the things that we need done, get deals booked, get products fixed, get help, get assistance, and we're leaders in our own thoughts, our own time management, our own priorities. Because what I've been talking a lot about this year is about judgment, about deciding what to work on. And some of the things that have come through is like Price's Law and the Pareto's Principle. These things are really about honing down on what matters most. Because if you're in sales, you only get paid on the deals that close. The commission on lost deals and no decision can't buy much with that. So we are leaders. We're proactive. We have to decide what is going to work for us. What is the best use of our time, our resources? Let's get it in this interview. I have Brian back on the show. He was on once before. Career salesperson, ex-military. So that comes up quite a bit. I think you're really going to appreciate it. Listen to the end. I'll give everybody who's in the course an update on what's going on with the office hours and the one-on-ones. And also make sure you're checking out our friends over at Pipedrive. Pipedrive's been with the podcast for quite a while now. I'm a huge fan of the product. It pretty much, I use 2 CRMs right now, but Pipedrive is my favorite. It's the easiest to use. It was written by salespeople for salespeople. It does so much more for you, and you need your own CRM. Even if you work for another company who has something you're forced to use, you need something to manage your network, your contacts, and it's so inexpensive, it's crazy not to. It has those calendar links where people can get on your calendar. It has contact info for your contacts. So it's so much more than just a CRM, and having it as you move through your career is critical, and it's really just a rounding error. It's, a couple cups of coffee a month. That's all it is. So check it out at pipedrive.com. Get an extended eval with the Brutal Truth coupon code. And if you happen to talk to anybody there, let them know you heard about it on the podcast. Also, Co-Video. Co-Video has been a game changer for a lot of listeners, and the people in the course. Start the conversation, get the meeting. Video email is the future. You got to get into it. Come on. You know what year it is. Let's get into the interview. Hey, Brian, welcome back to the show. Hey, let's talk about leadership here. What's your viewpoint of that as far as sales people and companies?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me back again. I had a great time the last time, so a lot of good feedback too. So again, thanks for having me. Leadership's near and dear to my heart, as you know. I spent some time in some great time in the military serving this great country, and I saw firsthand the difference between leadership, frankly, and dictatorship. You know what I mean? And I took a lot of great things from the military. But one of them I vowed when I get out is I was never going to just take orders from somebody ever again if it just didn't make sense or there was a safety issue or whatever it might be. Yeah. So my experience, you can tell a leader pretty quickly is leaders have people that work with them, not for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's a we environment versus a me and you'll go do environment because I said so.
And how do you define that? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, I think that what you'll see leaders will take information from everybody on their team, right? They'll listen, they connect with people, right? And they'll take all of that and then they'll clearly lay out a vision based on, and it might not be exactly what you thought, but there's a piece of it there. And you're like, man, I remember us discussing that. And all of a sudden there's a very clear vision of where we're going, why we're going there, and why we're going to go there together.
Yeah.
And leaders are at the top of the hill before you're even getting there, right? They're asking you to run through a brick wall because they already did the first chisel mark, right? Those are leaders. People want to be around, be with, work with those kind of people. Now, if you look at what I've seen, unfortunately, lately is people who declare it. If you have to declare that you're a leader, you're probably not.
Probably not.
Just FYI, right?
Yeah.
If you have to constantly tell people you're in charge, then you are on paper, but not in everybody else's mind. Top performers gravitate towards leaders, not dictators.
And what I see is a lot of administrators today where they're playing office instead of leading a team.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think that another great thing that leaders do, and there's some great books out there, and I'm biased to some of my former Navy friends and those guys that are putting out some great books right now, Extreme Ownership, some of those other ones where you look closely in those, though. Not are they just one of the biggest reasons they're leaders is they trust their people on their team. Right. When you go into a major battle or whatever, you can read in multiple books, they talk about this. You can't be in charge of everything going on, but everybody has a clear vision, a clear objective. But how you get there in the middle of that, if you've got a detour because it's an ambush or to convert it into sales, right? If all of a sudden you run into a budget issue, you run into somebody who is the negative Nelly or whatever, you've got to be able to have the authority to make those maneuvers as long as you're headed in the same direction. Yeah. And what I see more and more now is just administrators who forecast, pound. And, like I've seen some of your shows, you make me laugh and cry at the same time. Because I've been on those calls on Saturday going, wait a sec. It's in CRM. It's in your silly spreadsheet. Right. I already responded to 7 other divisions in the company that asked me the same question. Why am I on the phone with you? Yeah. Other than you're a control freak, right?
Or I don't want to read it. I want to hear it.
Right.
And I feel comfortable being busy.
Yeah, we can't type, obviously, right? So, but so I look at leaders are ones that they hire great people because their egos checked at the door, right? They don't hire subservient people. They hire great people. They hire people that might even be better than them at certain things, right? Because they want to see them excel and they want to build this team of people that now they can give the authority to make decisions downstream without everything having to come back up to the top and you wait around forever for somebody to make a decision who's never carried a bag, has no idea about sales and what it's like for everybody out in the field, and is dictating stuff that makes no sense to anybody.
Yeah. And I get that a lot on LinkedIn. There's always, and typically there's 3 letters after their last name, MBA, where they're like, oh, you reps, you think you're better than you are. And it's like, oh, you're all,
Yeah. Where is this belittling reps all of a sudden come from? Like,
you're nuts.
I remember back in the good old days where we were revered, not because we got paid a lot, because we solved the biggest problems in the industry, right? We were revered and we had great talent around us because we were out there working hard, spending 90% of our time, guess where? With customers. Because we cared about them. They're people. And now we spend 70% of our time talking to each other. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the common question I get from founders is, do we still need to pay sales reps commission? And I go, do you want them to care? We
still need to pay you guys golden parachutes when you fail miserably?
Yeah. And they call reps greedy. And it's like, well, how much equity are you willing to give up instead of commission?
Right.
You're here for equity.
Right.
They're here for income.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. And I think I saw one of your things too is we're going to pay you based on how much effort you made. Wait, what? Are you kidding me? It's like, when did all of a sudden salespeople became, these men and women that are just stupid and clearly can't do anything on their own. So we need all these different tools and enablement and we got to babysit them daily and pound on them because none of them have any self-motivation, obviously. That's not leadership.
It's not leadership. That's administration.
It's administration.
Management at best.
And I don't even see it as management because great managers, I've always told people that I hire, I'm like, if I need to manage you, we're both going to have a bad day. Right. Meaning that if I have to spend that much time, like, working with you on and managing you, that means that something's really off.
Yeah.
What I would rather do is work with you, lead you through this, and then have you learn and become more self-sufficient so I can trust you to go do the things that you need to do to be successful for you and the overall team. It's called a team for a reason. Sales is a team sport, but yet we're singling out the salespeople anymore as if they're literally just nobodies who have no clue how to do anything on their own. And it's the least productive I've ever seen executives in sales management in a long time, unfortunately, because of it.
And I think people have tried to reduce the cost of sales instead of increase sales.
You know what one of my most dreaded words in sales anymore is?
What's that?
Whenever they start to talk about, well, we're going to have to look at breaking this piece out or breaking that piece out, because we want to grow that or whatever. And it's just like, segmentation, right? For the sake of segmenting, right? Yeah. It's not that we offer anything specific. Now, don't get me wrong. Federal, some of those things I completely agree with. Yeah. But it's where we're gonna take away from our successful people because the idea is we're gonna give them less so they'll more focus. And it's like, okay, I understand some of that, Brian, but it's like anymore it's become just ground and pound.
Well, that is leadership on determining when it makes sense.
Right.
Because like if you're going into a foreign country and you have no expertise, you shouldn't have the guy in New York flying to Spain. Right. You hire a distributor.
What you described as critical mass, right? What I see is throw bodies at growth. That's like you can't throw bodies at growth. Right. Hey, we're going to get a whole bunch of money and we're going to go hire a whole bunch of people, even though we have no idea if we're going to grow or not. Versus, man, oh man, with this person or my current sales team is crushing it and they're overloaded. They can't get to it. Now let's add another person. By the way, they're people. Let's not align
resources.
On a spreadsheet, right? Just like customers have become, right? They're aligned on the spreadsheet. No, these are people. I'm out there with them. My team's out there with them every day. How about we actually understand their needs and not try to shove our needs down their throat, right? I need the order right now because I'm getting hammered from, and it's like, man, I understand asking for favors, but you ask for favors from a business perspective when you've earned it.
Yeah.
Because you've done stuff for them. And now maybe, when I call somebody, I'll never threaten them as a director or an area vice president. I never called and said, look, you don't do this now, that deal, that price, it's gone, right? How many times does that actually work for you? Maybe once or twice, maybe it has worked, but how's your relationship with that customer or more importantly, that person anymore? Yeah. It blows my mind anymore, Brian.
And why do you think there's such a void? Is it just the focus on things moving so fast that people don't want to do the right things and the right pace?
Honestly, I think it's because business is moving so fast. If we're not growing at 500% a year, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And then panic sets in and they're like, you know what? We got to bring in a whole bunch of new people, even though they have one playbook, by the way. And it reminds me, I'm a huge college football fan, right? And college wrestler. And it's like, hey, we're up against the greatest run defense in the world, but we're going to run the ball up the gut. But wait a sec, I just hired two of the greatest wide receivers, AKA salespeople. No, we're going to run it up the gut. So it's like, because it's the only playbook they have.
Right.
But they hired this person because somewhere in their career, they were wildly successful at something.
At some
now
place.
They're going to come in as way up here at the very top. They're going to teach us all how to go to the next level. And it's like, and then how many of those have you seen 2 years later? The culture's demolished. All the good salespeople have left because they're not going to put up with it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like Groundhog Day. I see it over and over again.
I do. Yeah, and I went through that. I was at this company. It was a niche player, and it was never really going to be much more than a niche player. But it could have grown, 50, 100% a year.
Yeah.
But they brought in a new VP of sales who came from a high-flying company that was really just a demo proposed close company.
Yeah.
They were the dominant player in their space, and he just wrecked it.
Yeah.
Tripled the sales force.
It was throw bodies at growth, micromanage like a maniac, and then declare that you're a leader everywhere you go. Just ask me.
Right.
You know what I mean? One of those kind of people with an ego bigger than the growth that they're projecting. And it just, I don't understand it anymore, Brian.
And the military is a good analogy, because if you look at, what happened in Afghanistan back in like '02,
Yep.
right? Bush gave it to the CIA and they gave it to special ops.
Yeah.
Tightly coupled teams, highly focused. But then you look at Iraq, which was just a train wreck. Too many people doing too many things.
Yeah.
With this craziness going on.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, I got a soft spot in my heart for all the military. And, as you know, I'm doing the consulting. By the way, from the last time we were together, I've gotten a bunch of phone calls, and now I'm helping companies as a consultant to identify their why, right? So they got a great widget or great technology, but nobody's ever identified the actual why. Like, why would anybody buy this? What's its use? But also just leadership, right? How do you lead people versus a dictatorship or whatever it might be? And to your point, special forces are a perfect example of, it's not like you don't have people in charge, believe me. It's not like people aren't lead, and they're leading you into actually harm's way.
Yeah.
And you're still following, right? Now, granted, you got to follow orders, but there is people that were phenomenal leaders versus just giving orders, right? And that's what I see now in the sales world. I'm seeing more and more people just giving orders versus truly leading people through it, having the buy-in of your people, and then rocking and rolling from there. You want to rock and roll, get everybody on the same page, and everybody feels like they're heard, and lead them through it. Those are the companies that are wildly successful.
And I think what happens if you don't do that is you get a lot of people acting like they're working instead of working.
Yeah. Well, they're busy doing the busy work that you've assigned to them.
Right. That you want to see.
Yeah, that you want to see. I saw people being rewarded for doing the busy work.
Yeah.
Versus the top performers. And I'm like, look, let's be crystal clear about sales. And it's the thing I love about it. Just like, military and moving up special forces is, you either perform or you go home, right? Well, what I started to see is, well, even though you're not performing, you're doing all the right things. Well, the right thing in sales is selling. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
There's no faking
successful with your team.
There should be no faking it.
Not being successful despite people. There are, I ran into some of those where I've got some salespeople that are successful, but there's flames behind them, right? They scorched earth. So you got to be careful on both those. But I think that's where the leadership comes in. But, Steve Jobs had many famous quotes. My favorite, and I'm sure I'm not going to get it perfect, so please, people, don't pick it apart. But the theme was, we hire smart people to tell us what to do, not tell them what to do.
Right.
And I'm like, why are you hiring some of the best salespeople on the planet and treating them like children? Yeah. I don't get it anymore, Brian. I really don't.
Well, I think people don't understand sales. I think they look at sales in the rearview mirror, meaning the orders are in, the service has been provided. Now let's equalize it. And why are we paying that person so much? They don't see.
All they did was get that first meeting. And every time I would hear that, I'm a former SE, so I can pick on this a little bit, is, I would hear at times, well, just get me in and just get our team in and it's over. And I'm like, do you know how long it takes to get into a Fortune 100 company and get that first meeting that's relevant at a VP or whatever level? That's the hard part. You know what I mean? And building that relationship.
And let's say they don't buy. Then what does everybody say? Oh, they don't get it.
Yeah.
Get me into a smarter place.
Right? Somebody who understands what we do better. No, you failed. Yes. It's really simple, right? You failed to connect with your customer and understand their issues and then apply it to it. And I think that's where, where you become great salespeople is when you're consultative and you're solving major problems. You're not being forced to go in there and throw up your product all over them, and you don't even know if it's applicable yet.
Yeah. And when I talk to reps who are looking at a job, I always say that mojo with the manager is probably more important than the company.
Yeah.
Because if you're not getting the sense, if that person looks at you as a cog in his wheel,
Right.
run.
Yeah, because you're going to get burned out and you're going to get micromanaged because he or she doesn't see him or her as a person or people. Right. They see him as a line item. Again, it's throwing bodies at growth. What I saw with that is we're going to manage every salesperson to about an average. I saw this game too. And as an AVP, it drove me crazy when I would see, and I would know what they're doing because I carried a bag for a long time. I get what you're doing with the comp plan is you're going to let them make money the first year. And then year 2 and 3, you're going to hammer them. And then in year 4, we'll do it all over again. And we'll throw bodies at growth so we can average out what we pay them over a 3-year period. And I'm look, we aren't idiots, right? We can do mathematics. We know what you're up to and we can see through it versus putting together a multi-year plan on how we're going to get there. And I don't mind the comp plan being aligned with where we're headed as a company. That's fine because we can all buy into it. What I can't handle is a totally metric-driven company who only sees metrics and not people. Right. And no matter what, you're going to drive to a certain metric, even if I have shadow sales forces competing against each other.
Yeah.
Because God forbid, I'm not going to double pay somebody, right? It's just craziness.
And I think today we've gone way overboard with the metrics because I think that's blinding people from the connection with the person. Okay. Yeah. If you're not getting the sales, okay, so help me understand what's going on.
Right.
And within an hour conversation, you can tell either the person is blaming somebody else, isn't getting it, is doing something wrong, or just needs some help.
Yeah.
But if you just count dials, it's like they're gaming.
And that's the thing is you get down to the metrics where it's, how many meetings per week, how many dials per week now, how many, and it's like, and I get that there needs to be metrics. Don't get me wrong.
It has to be activity. Yes.
There needs to be a single language for qualification. The flavor of the year seems to be MedPick right now. What people, I think, forget is there's been a MedPick-like thing for 20 years, right? It's not a new concept. It is a good tool, but it's a tool. And then you have good things like command a message, which I'm an old EMCer back in the glory days. We had this thing called the Emc Effects Wheel, which is the same type of thing as here's the business challenge within this vertical. And then here's our solution on how we solve it from a financial perspective, and all the business reasons. The products were down in the really small print where way down at the bottom, right? Same mindset now with like command a message and some of those other things is what is our value prop in solving some of these huge problems that these customers are facing these days?
And that's it. Not like use the military paradigm. What is boot camp, right? It's getting up at the same time every day. It's doing the same exercises every day, the same routines. Yeah. And that becomes habits.
Right.
And a leader does that without telling the people.
That's right.
They say, okay, we're going in pre-call. Okay, what have you heard so far? What do they need? Who are they looking at? Who's in charge? Who's the hidden?
And leaders aren't trying to find something to trip you up.
Right. They're trying to make you think about it. They're trying to find
your blind spots to help you.
Yeah.
How many management people have you seen that are almost, and this is where a leader doesn't send you up the hill and sit there and go like this to see how you're going to do. Right. Yeah. Or an example is they don't pick apart, what you're trying to do. They actually try to find your blind spots and try to help you. Now, don't get me wrong. There is no doubt I've had salespeople that forecast on hope. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you do need to pick apart, but you still as a leader can do that in a way that doesn't necessarily belittle or, this macho-ness to, some of the executive management, sales management anymore is, we just got to beat them down to see the cream of the crop rise to the top.
Yeah.
Whatever. You know what I mean?
Good luck with that.
Whatever.
And I had a manager, we got along pretty good, but he loved to give a presentation. He was great at it. He was charming, entertaining.
Yeah.
But he had this thing where he'd give a great presentation, and if the deal was slipping or it wasn't moving, he goes, "What happened? I was there. I gave the presentation. They loved it." Right. I used to say, well, guess what? The deal has a little bit more to do than just a presentation.
Well,
Right?
absolutely. And frankly, where people learn, I think as a great leader, you don't rescue people. Where people learn is in the struggle.
Yeah.
But you have to be alongside them in that struggle, not, and again, I see so much belittlement in sales anymore, in sales leadership, and so much, like I said, negativity. And, like I'm looking for my leaders to come up with something that maybe I didn't think of. One of my best leaders ever came up with the idea of, have you ever gone back to your customer and asked them why you won? We always spend so much time on, post-mortem and triage on why we lost. How about we go start finding out why we won?
Yeah.
And 80% of the time, I'll bet you it's not what you think it is. And I did this with one of my leaders, managers, and I called the CIO and I said, hey, my boss wants to have a get together and just understand why you chose us and why we won. And this guy was a Carnegie Mellon professor, been in IT for a long time, very, decorated CIO. And he says, you are the first salesperson to ever ask me that question. Yes, I'll take that meeting. And we sat there and I'm all excited, Brian. I'm like, oh, I know what he's going to say. I'm the greatest salesperson ever. I ran the greatest campaign ever. I understood his business. And, there was some of that. But what shocked me when he did say it was, I'm not sure that this project is possible. But what I am sure of is if there's anybody that can pull it off, it's you and your team.
Oh.
Stunned me, my team, even my manager, right? So I learned from a leader, that was a great piece that I've carried with me my whole career now, to say, hey, when we win a brand new customer and a big Fortune 500 customer, as soon as you can, and I don't care if it's a dinner or whatever, or, whatever, but ask them why we won. Yeah. And then be quiet, and let them answer you.
And it's probably not going to be price, and it's not going to be the product.
No,
it's going to be what you did to guide them to that decision.
Especially if you're at a C-level person.
Right. You mitigate risk.
They're mitigating risk. They're looking at how am I going to be aligned and lead my IT organization through where the business is going. Right. You guys understood that and helped me solve a major problem that I wasn't even sure what we were going to do. Yeah. That's when you did the right things, right? Because and it could be off the wall stuff, right? I've heard some answers to that I'm not going to repeat here, but they will follow, right? Yeah. They will run through that with you. So,
and do you think it can exist if it doesn't come from the top, meaning from the CEO down? If the CEO, unfortunately, typically is a technical founder, yeah. And too often, and you kind of alluded to this, that they almost want to outsource sales, meaning. Right. Hire the guy from the adjacent category killer, bring him in and do the same thing here.
Yeah, I've seen it in a lot of startups, and that's actually, again, some of the consulting I'm doing, thanks to you, is the co-founder is really more of a CTO, has an incredible product or widget, and can't understand why for a year now nobody's bought it. So clearly we just need to outsource sales, because as soon as people see what we do, they're going to buy it. Oh. And it's like, no, actually, I'm working with a company that does fuel testing, right? To give you an example. And so they send out the bottles, you send them their fuel from, Joe Bag of Donuts, gas station, and they make money that way. But they had this rudimentary kind of software product. Yeah. It was capturing all this because fuel, by the way, has about a 20% failure rate. And I'm like, well, okay, well, wait a second. Well, who uses fuel? And so I started to peel back the onion of, you know what? Your biggest channel is creating a software product. So I brought in a software developer, capturing all that historical data, right? And being able to trend it, work with weights and measures, because you guys are on all these boards, be a thought leader, get on LinkedIn and social media and start becoming a thought leader and be the data warehouse for all of that information. And lo and behold, now go sell to the people who make generators, people, weights and measures, and all of a sudden they're seeing their business explode because they're not just a fuel testing business. Yeah. They're a software company, lo and behold, right? So it's interesting where, to answer your question, is if what I have found is if the CTO or somebody that's more of a technical founder understands that they need the help and will listen, that they can be wildly successful, right? It's if they think their product is amazing and salespeople are clueless and we don't understand why I haven't sold anything for a year, but we'll just outsource it to some sales group. And then we did that, and gosh, we've hired a bunch of, inside salespeople, and that's still not working. And we can't figure out why. Because we're professionals. That's why. We're very good at what we do. We really are.
And it tends to take the third round of tries before they're open-minded.
Right.
And I always used to say to founders, it's like, you got to find a salesperson who's going to tell you what he needs or she needs. Yeah. And then you deliver that for them. You are part of their team.
Right. And I think to your point is, does it have to be from the top or can it be from the side? I don't think dictators and bad leaders hire good leaders. So I would say no. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think people that come in like that are closed-minded, egotistical, it's all about them. It's how they're gonna, they're typically gonna hire people, and you'll see it is, they'll bring in their posse, right? AKA people that will just listen to them and do what they say, and will run the same playbook that they're gonna run, and then they'll all fail together. You know what I mean? So, which I've seen, by the way, over and over again.
I've seen it too. And I think for reps, you got to look for that signal. If what they're looking for is a magician versus a salesperson, and you're not a magician, run.
Yeah, you're not a magician. Or if they're looking for somebody who is just completely subservient and obedient, no matter how many floggings we give. Usually, by the way, if you haven't noticed, most top performing salespeople, and I used to be one, so I'll pick on myself, are a little eccentric, a little emotional, yours truly, right? And great leaders understand how to work with each one of them individually. I've always said great sales teams are like, we're having an all-star team or the Yankees back when they used to win. No offense. But having the best of the best. And how do you figure out to take all of these type A people that are all a little eccentric, a little quirky, and they all sell their own way, rowing towards in the same direction? The people who are able to do that are leaders.
They are, instead of trying to make them soldiers.
Exactly.
Sales is not a soldier business.
No, it's not. And that's where like I said, I do take a ton of stuff I learned in the military, and I love all my brothers and sisters out there that are fighting for our freedom. And I take a lot of good things. But like I said, the one thing I did run into is non-leaders who just had a rank higher than me with massive egos who dictated, in some cases, even when it could have been dangerous. But you're going to do it, or you're going to go see the captain and go to captain's mess, right? Yeah. And I promised myself, I am never just taking orders from somebody again just because you're being a dictator, right? Cool. And I don't want to be troublesome and be too noisy either, and fall on my own sword. I think,
but it's much more like the special forces model,
right? It is
where you practice, you anticipate, but then you jump out of the helicopter and you try and figure out how to get it done.
And look, every single one of those people on the special forces team as an individual are unbelievable.
Yeah,
but they also understand it as a team. Without the team, they're nothing. Yeah. And everything they do, everything they think of is for each other and for that team. Again, they're incredible operators on their own. Believe me, you run into one of them and there's 10 of you, you lose, right? But they never forget about their teammates ever. They never leave a teammate behind. Those creeds and everything are there for a reason. It's because that's how you build high performing teams. And I, by the way, I would hear that all the time, right? New leader comes in, Brian, you need to know how to manage. And I'm not sure if you've ever managed a high performing team. And of course, then I would laugh out loud, almost, because I'm like, and you have no idea what you're talking about, right? Because you've never led people into harm's way. Right. So you're gonna tell me that? Okay, that's kind of funny to me, But okay, go ahead, I'm listening. So,
cool.
So again, go ahead.
Remind people where they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn, I think the last time I forgot to let people know, it's Brian Bowman, Bollman. I'm on LinkedIn. I haven't really put anything up for my consulting business. I actually may go back into sales management here soon. But you can find me on LinkedIn, Brian with a Y, Bowman, Bollman. Right now I got my Home with Heroes thing, which is my nonprofit for veterans at near and dear, but I'm coming back. The passion's still there. I'm coming back. So I'm going to do something because I want to help people again. And I want to lead. I want to try to help and try to lead people again. So check me out on there for now and send me some more of those private messages. I appreciated them. It was great. So thanks for having me again, Brian.
See, if you apply leadership, what it really is thinking ahead. It's being proactive. It's not being reactive to what's going on. It's helping other people get to what they want. It's thinking for yourself instead of just being a sheep. And sales, sheep get slaughtered. I'm sorry, they do. The middle of the pack, and when I say get slaughtered, I mean don't make money. If you're going to go through all this hassle of being in sales, you want to be successful. You don't want to just hang out. The land of the B player is no place to live. Hey, so to update everybody on the courses, we now have had tons of office hours. They're a 1-hour meetup every other Friday. Make sure if you can attend. If you can't, just watch it during the week. Lots of Q&A and a separate lesson or case study is presented and discussed. So it really helps you start to learn how to start these conversations and get the meetings and closing the complex sale. You also have access to one-on-ones. Just go to the first chapter. There's a calendar link to schedule a one-on-one. I record them and put them into the course so that everybody can learn from the lesson. I record them anonymously. No one knows your name, your company, your product, because that stuff isn't as pertinent as we think. We all think it's unique, but the same patterns exist about how to keep deals moving, how to judge if they're going to buy and how they're going to buy, how to guide them through that process. That's what we get. And to be able to talk to somebody else about your deal helps you focus on where it really is, what weak points you have, and how to close it. That's the beauty of it. And if you have any frequently asked questions about the courses, check the show notes. I put the answers in there. Just learn how to go to the show notes. I think you just tap the artwork or hit the more, or the 3 dots, and you'll see them all there, as well as a sample email to send to your manager if you want your manager to pay for it. And a lot of people have gotten that. But anyways, you got to get into the course. Make this year your year to be proactive, your year to crush it, to learn, to develop this skill of selling. And it is a skill. It's not just the knowledge. It's the application of the knowledge, the systematic way of becoming better and better at it. Sales it's just a great profession, but it's one that you have to practice. You have to document. You have to come up with your system. And people say, well, what's the outcome that people get out of the courses? Well, start the conversation, get the meeting, teaches you how to have a conversation about what another person cares about that turns into a business conversation. And if you've heard the great salespeople, clients want to talk with them. Is it because they're engaging and entertaining? Partially, but it's more because they've got it. They understand that people want to talk about what they care about, not so much what you care about. But the law of reciprocation kicks in and they start talking about what you care about. And then you have rapport, where we learned that about mammal-to-mammal selling, where you need rapport to get a deal, to build trust, to get action taken. And I break it down into simple little pieces. And the outcome that people have gotten is they've been able to automate this and outsource it even, so that they don't have to spend their time, getting meetings. And it pays for itself. How many new meetings, how many new opportunities do you need for it to pay for itself? Companies are spending $500 to $2,500 to have a meeting, a conversation. It's insane because everyone's so bad at it. Everyone is pitching. Everyone's doing what worked in the 90s when people would get one call a week. Remember when you got an email and you were like, I I got an email. Now it's like, oh, God, I got email. The world has changed, but people haven't. I teach you how to connect and engage with people. And closing the complex sale, the other course, the outcome is 4 people in the course did the biggest deals at the company's history this year by understanding how to get to power, how to propose and build business justifications, how to keep deals moving. Now, would you like that? Not everybody wants to be rich. I understand it. And if you don't, that's okay. Maybe this course isn't for you. But if you do, come on, sign up. Get going. Take action on yourself. And in most cases, if you close one incremental deal a year, the course will pay for itself. But how about if you doubled? I can't double. I'm a know-it-all. Okay, I don't want any know-it-alls. If you're a know-it-all, please go listen to someone else's one of those marketing sales podcasts. I love this. I love when marketing people go and start a sales podcast. It's crazy. You're talking to a career salesperson here. Believe me, I've been through the trenches, and I want to share the easiest way to get to the gold. So go to b2brevenue.com, schedule a time to talk through it with me. Look through the show notes. All the answers to all the questions I typically get are in there, but if you want to talk to me, love to get to know you. Okay, so let's get this thing going, and let's not have any of this happen. We don't want that. What do we want? That's right, folks. We'll see you next time.